My name is Jessica. I'm 35 years old and I work in customer service. I live in California and have lived alone since I was 17. I left home early because I grew up in an environment where love was scarce, and over time I realized that my parents' house was not a place where I could flourish. I decided to follow my own path, in search of a space where I could be myself and build my own happiness. From a very young age, I was always determined and smart. I knew that in order to achieve my dreams, I had to be independent. With a lot of effort, I quickly managed to achieve my financial goals and establish myself in life. My focus was on building a solid career and ensuring my autonomy. When I was 18, I got into a serious relationship which lasted about 5 years. At the time, I was looking for a partner who shared my vision of life and ambitions. Unfortunately, over time I realized that the man I was with had little desire to grow with me. He was content with the routine, with no enthusiasm to explore new experiences or surprise. Our sex life also reflected this lack of desire and passion, which left me dissatisfied and frustrated. Although I tried for a while, hoping that something would change, it was clear that he wasn't willing to leave his comfort zone. Faced with this, I made the difficult decision to move on alone. I understood that it was better for each of us to pursue our own lives individually to avoid further disappointment and frustration. Since then, I have continued to walk my path with determination, focusing on my personal growth and building a full and fulfilled life. The years went by, and when I reached the age of 35, I began to feel an emptiness inside me, as if something was missing. I couldn't pinpoint exactly what it was, but I knew I needed something different in my life. I felt that my independence and my ability to live alone were no longer enough to fill what my heart desired. It was then that I made the decision to open myself up to new experiences and, perhaps, find a new love that could bring new meaning to my life. After much thought, I decided to explore the digital world and joined a famous chat room. I decided to look for people from my hometown, Belo Horizonte, because I knew that distance could be an obstacle to having the new experiences I was longing for. Over the first few days, I spent several hours chatting to different people, getting to know their stories and perspectives, but none of them really caught my attention or made me feel that special connection I was looking for. Then, on one of those days, I met Carlos, a 35-year-old man. Right from the start, something about him captivated me deeply. His way of speaking was different, full of joy and lightness. There was a freshness and sincerity in his words that instantly attracted me. It wasn't just what he said, but how he said it, with an energy that seemed to light up the conversation. We got involved in long chat conversations that lasted hours and hours. We talked about everything: our lives, dreams, fears, and hopes. With each new exchange, I felt I knew him a little more, and this virtual closeness began to mean a lot to me. At the end of one of these intense conversations, we decided to exchange phone numbers so as not to lose touch. The idea of meeting in person was beginning to take shape, and the mere thought of it filled me with excitement and anticipation. Perhaps I was finally finding that something that had been missing in my life. So the days went by and our conversations became more and more intense and meaningful. There was never a lack of topics. It felt like we had known each other for years. The connection we felt was so strong that we were already very close, as if our souls had met before our bodies had even known each other. The anticipation of finally meeting Carlos in person grew with every conversation, and I couldn't wait to see if he would be the man who would bring the new experiences I was so desperately looking for. One day, unexpectedly, Carlo asked me where I was. It was an ordinary afternoon, and I was at home, lying down, relaxing after a day's work. When I told him this, I felt a change in his voice. There was a certain eagerness, an urgency that until then he had kept under control. He then asked me, almost in a whisper, if we could finally meet in person. He confessed that he could no longer wait to see me, and that every day without meeting me was becoming a challenge. That request, so sincere and full of desire, moved me in a way I hadn't expected. My heart raced, and without thinking twice, I promptly said yes, that I was looking forward to this meeting too. We decided to meet in a square near my house, a quiet place where we could see each other for the first time without the interference of the world around us. When the long-awaited hour arrived, my heart was in ecstasy. As soon as we saw each other, it was as if time stood still. He was exactly as I had imagined, and at the same time even better. We moved closer and, in an almost natural gesture, kissed. The chemistry between us was undeniable, and every touch, every look confirmed what we had already felt in our conversations. There was something special between us. Everything was wonderful, and the desire to be alone with him, to explore this deep connection, grew with every moment. We began to connect more intensely, and our connection grew stronger with each meeting. One day, Carlos invited me to his house. I already knew from previous conversations that he lived with his younger brother, but I hadn't given it much thought. I was focused on building something solid with Carlos, and I didn't think this detail would have any relevance. When I arrived at his house, I was greeted warmly, and everything seemed normal until the moment I saw his brother for the first time. As soon as our gazes met, I felt an overwhelming wave of emotion, similar to the one I had felt the first day I joined the chat room. It was an intense and unexpected desire that took hold of me in a way I couldn't explain. Something inside me awoke, and for a moment the world around me seemed to disappear, leaving only the inexplicable connection I felt with that man. I stood there, staring at him, while he returned my gaze with the same intensity. His eyes penetrated mine as if he were trying to read every thought, every feeling hidden inside me. It was a moment that lasted a few seconds, but felt like an eternity. There was an energy, a chemistry between us that I couldn't understand, but that was impossible to ignore. Carlos, who was standing next to me, realized that something different had happened in that brief instant. He saw the exchange of glances, felt the tension in the air, but decided not to take any notice of what could have been just a moment of strangeness. He took me to the bedroom, and we went on together as usual. However, that encounter never left my mind. Every time I went to Carlos's house, the feeling repeated itself. Whenever I saw his brother, my body filled with warmth, as if it were constantly boiling. It was a sensation I couldn't control, an uncontrollable attraction that confused me and made me restless. The strangest thing was that I still had the same feelings for Carlos, which made the situation even more complex and inexplicable. One day, when I was with Jose at my house, we were having one of those quiet moments, lying together in bed, enjoying each other's presence. Everything seemed normal, until he suddenly turned to me with a serious, almost disconcerting expression. His eyes, which were normally full of affection, now showed a mixture of curiosity and concern. In a calm but tense voice, he asked directly, "Jessica, do you like my brother too?" That question took me completely by surprise. My heart raced, and for a moment I didn't know what to say. It was as if he had read my deepest thoughts, the ones I hadn't been able to fully decipher myself. Part of me was confused, not understanding what I really felt. But another part knew that Jose wasn't wrong. The connection between me and his brother was something real, something I couldn't ignore, but couldn't explain either. Not knowing how to deal with the situation, I cracked a half-hearted smile, trying to find the right words. Finally, with an honesty that came from the bottom of my heart, I replied, "Carlos, every time I meet your brother, I feel a warmth rise up inside me, something I can't control. But that doesn't mean I want you any less. What I feel for you is deep and true. It's just that this attraction to your brother is something I still don't fully understand." Jose listened to me in silence, his eyes still fixed on mine, as if he were trying to decipher every word, every expression on my face. I could see that he was processing what I had said, trying to understand the complexity of the situation. It was a difficult truth to face, both for him and for me. But at that moment, all I wanted was for him to know that, despite all the confusion and the whirlwind of emotions, my feelings for him were genuine and remained the basis of our relationship. Then, to my complete surprise, Jose made a suggestion that I would never have imagined. After hearing my confession, he smiled in a way I hadn't expected and, with impressive calm, said that he didn't see anything wrong with what I felt. In fact, he revealed that he thought it was good because it was something we could experience together. Jose then shared a desire he had kept hidden until that moment. He had always wanted to have the experience of being two and her at the same time, and now he saw an opportunity to fulfill that desire in a unique way, with someone he respected and trusted, his own brother. I was totally surprised by Jose's response. It was something that had never crossed my mind, but at the same time, hearing his words, I felt as if a piece of the puzzle inside me had clicked into place. Suddenly, I realized that what he was suggesting was, in a way, something I also wanted, but had never admitted to myself. The mere fact of hearing Jose talk about his desire awakened in me a feeling of completeness, as if I had finally found something I had been looking for a long time, but didn't know exactly what it was. I felt a mixture of relief and excitement, knowing that I wasn't alone in this confusion of feelings and desires. After a long and honest conversation with Jose, we both came to the conclusion that this could be an interesting and new experience for us. It was an opportunity to explore something different, break down barriers, and deepen our connection in a way we had never imagined. Jose, always careful, said he would talk to his brother to see if he would be willing to take part in this experience. He knew this was a delicate decision and wanted to ensure that everyone felt comfortable and respected. The anticipation of how things would unfold filled me with anxiety. But at the same time, there was a curiosity and a deep desire to see where this new dynamic could take us. After that intense conversation with Jose, I spent several days immersed in thought. My mind wouldn't stop, trying to imagine what this experience would be like, how everything would unfold. It was as if a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions were constantly spinning inside me, mixing expectation, curiosity, and a touch of fear. Every possible detail was running through my head, from what the dynamic between the three of us would be like, to how I would feel in the face of something so new and different. Sometime later, Jose and I decided to go out for a dinner, trying to maintain a certain normality in the midst of all this internal storm I was experiencing. Dinner began like any other, with light conversation and laughter. But there was an underlying silence, a tension that we both knew was there, waiting to be broken. Suddenly, after a moment of silence, Jose called my name. His voice was soft, but charged with something that made my heart race. When I raised my eyes to meet his, he was looking at me with a mixture of seriousness and excitement. He then told me that he had managed to talk to his brother, and that he had agreed to live this experience together with us. At that moment, an avalanche of sensations hit me all at once. I wasn't sure what I was feeling. On the one hand, there was fear and insecurity, natural when faced with something so unusual and out of my comfort zone. I was afraid of the unknown, of how this experience could impact not only our relationship, but also myself. What if it changed something irreversibly? What if, in the end, I wasn't prepared for what might happen? But at the same time, there was a deep desire inside me, an almost uncontrollable urge to live it out, to explore what until then had only existed in my deepest fantasies and thoughts. I felt an electricity run through my body, a mixture of anxiety and excitement that made me want to get out of there at that very moment and do everything we had talked about. I was in an intense dilemma where fear and desire mixed, creating a palpable tension. Even with all the uncertainties, I knew I couldn't go back. The desire to experiment, to throw myself into this new experience, overcame any doubts I might have had. The next day, everything became clearer to me. As I reflected on the events, I realized that from the moment I entered that chat room, this was exactly what I had been looking for. Something different, something that could transform the way I saw the world and myself. It was as if I had finally found the missing piece in the puzzle of my life. With this realization in mind, I picked up the phone and called Jose without hesitation. I firmly told him to make an appointment with his brother that very night because I was ready to live that moment we had been longing for. When the night finally arrived, I prepared myself like never before. I wanted to look perfect, both for myself and for them. I chose my sexiest outfit, one I'd never worn before, one that made me feel powerful and desired. As I looked in the mirror, I felt a mixture of nervousness and excitement take over me. But at the same time, I knew it was exactly what I wanted. I took a deep breath and, with renewed determination, set off in the direction of Jose's house. When I arrived, the scene I found intensified my feelings even more. Jose and his brother were standing there, waiting for me. Their eyes devoured me with desire, and I could feel that this night was going to be unforgettable. It was as if the air around me was filled with tension and anticipation. Just imagining the scene that would unfold made my body respond. A wave of heat and excitement swept over me. Without needing words, the two of them approached me. They each took one of my hands, leading me slowly towards the bedroom. Inside me, a burning flame was already beginning to intensify. Expectation, desire, everything was mixed together, creating an almost palpable energy. When we reached the bedroom, I was gently thrown onto the bed, and even at that moment, neither of us uttered a word. Communication was silent but clear, with only glances full of desire and mutual understanding. Lying there, watching the two men who wanted me, I felt the peak of arousal. I was wrapped in the arms of Jose and his brother, and together we explored all the forms of love that our bodies and minds could conceive. It was a night of total surrender, where all limits were dissolved and pleasure led us down paths we had never traveled before. That experience, intense and overwhelming, made me realize that I was exactly where I was supposed to be, living what I had been searching for since the beginning. Then I felt complete, as if life had become lighter. Something I had been missing had finally been filled. To this day, I'm happy with Jose and his brother, living every day as if it were the last of our lives. What was once an uncertain search for something different has now become a routine of complicity and satisfaction. Every day with them is a new adventure, where passion and respect intertwine, creating a unique and profound relationship. And so we go on together, enjoying every moment as if there were no tomorrow, living to the full what once seemed unattainable.